All right, boys. So I started the wiring on the standalone harness. This is just the stock harness from the factory. I got it with the motor. Kind of want to show you, give you an update where I'm at. So far, hasn't been too bad, but there are a lot of circuits in this thing. So here's your ECU, TCU. So it has all the injector drivers and everything. I believe the first two, I'll have to look back, but two of these are the ECU and then one is the TCU connector. And I kind of stripped this connector back so I could trace some wires, double check a few things. I have all the wiring schematics and everything from ALLDATA. You can see it's been a mess, and I'll get back into that, but this is basically what I'm doing. This is the part that plugs into the truck fuse block, and you can see all the circuits on that. Basically, I just copied all the circuits. This box was really cheap. This was like $5 or $6 off eBay. But it only has 6 fuse circuits and then a bunch of relay sockets. So it turns out I was going to try to fit it in 6 circuits, but I didn't want to because I wanted to keep it more like the stock. So I went out and bought more of these at the local auto parts store. So this is going to be kind of a mess, and maybe I'll redo it later, but right now I just want to see if it works. These are pretty much your outputs. So let's see what I have here. Yeah, so I have like a relay turn on. I have H3 87. These are basically ignition wires, constant voltage, starter wires, grounds, such like that. So that's what these are, and these come straight from the this connector that I showed you. This block here is basically everything that runs the motor, so all the criticals. So your fuel. You got to remember this is a direct inject motor, so these are your fuel injectors up here. They fire at 64 volts, but they get 12 volts and then go to the motor driver and then send out 64 volts to open it initially. So injectors, coils. There's a few things I couldn't trace back that I need to still go back, but there's the O2 sensors. The O2 sensors need 12 volts for their heat. There's a heating element there. So yeah, I basically found where all the connectors go, and I kind of have a good idea where all the connectors are. I still need to buy a 3-bar map from a ZR1, I believe it is. I believe the ZR1 is a 3-bar map, and Matt Happel and some of those guys are just plugging it in. I guess it works. So we'll see about that. Oh yeah, so this all goes into big relay. This is kind of my hokey way of setting it up. You can see how I did that. These wires are actually, this is way overkill for what it needs to be. These wires are pretty tiny in there. I kind of just went bigger. So let me show you the schematic basically I got. Now this is, you got to be careful because they changed the wiring between 2014 to 2016, but a lot of it is very similar. Just some of the pinouts are different. So you can see that's that relay. That's the 87 output, and then it powers all these. So that was that hokey setup that I had. So you can see injectors. Some of these ECMs are basically, I think this one goes to the fuel pump. Yeah, so this is the fuel pump, so I'm not running the pulse width modulated fuel pump on in the gas tank. I'm just gonna go with a regular in-tank pump. Yeah, so that's one of the outputs, or the ignition turn on. You can see hot at all times, and then energized. Here's your yellow wire, that's your ignition fuse, or your ignition right from the ECM. So yeah, it's coming along kind of slowly, but I'm getting it. Another thing cool is that these were actually from my big block. These were the exhaust pipes I was running on my big block. You can see it's just straight through. And what's funny is that this flange actually goes right on. I'm hitting right here, so I can fix that real quick. But so I'm gonna just try and test start this thing. So I just got to weld some O2 sensors in there. That won't be too bad. There's a couple plugs that are questionable. I'm not 100% sure what this is. I believe it is a fuel pump. A lot of these smaller ones, I'm not really too sure. Here's your body control module plug, and that's more interior stuff and AC stuff. Here's your data lines. This blue and white, that's your data line. So I got to wire a OBD2 connector to that. I got to connect some random grounds that go on the motor. Well, that's another thing. I found a signal ground that runs through the fuse block. So I basically just capped that off because it's connected straight to here. So it must be like a redundant system where they just want a very clean ground. So maybe they have a secondary ground that goes through the fuse block. But since it goes right here, I think that's, you know, it's kind of redundant. So yeah, that's all for now. Thanks for checking in, and I will have further updates later this week.